Hi, guys.
Hi, everyone. We'll start in just a minute. I'd give a couple more minutes for people to join us.
Good evening. This is Chuck.
Hi, Chuck.
Evening, everyone. This is Clifton.
Hello. Okay, it's 8 o'clock, and I wonder if you folks think we should get started now or give it a couple minutes.
Hi, Francisco. I just jumped on. Let's give it one more minute.
Yeah.
Thanks. And then I'd say, let's proceed. I'm going to turn off my camera, however. But thanks for doing this. You don't anticipate this being terribly long, or do you?
No, no,
Yeah.
I want to go over an outstanding matter we discussed. Well, I've got the agenda ahead of us, but that we discussed last time surrounding zoning permits and some requirements around those to prevent structures from being built as in a way that they were not presented or planned.
What you and Candy have been talking about.
Exactly.
Okay,
And then I'd like to very quickly walk you through the presentation that we have for next week's virtual meeting, and that's our agenda.
Perfect. Well, it's 7:01. I'd say take it over.
Okay. Well, with that said, I kind of got started with the agenda already. And first of all, I'd like to know, have we had any feedback because I'm not aware of any feedback as of yet regarding the draft regulations that have been circulated to Design Review Board or to ZBA. And I know that a couple other committees expressed some interest in reviewing. Is there any additional feedback? Okay.
No, not that I've heard. And I don't know if they got sent out to any other.
I haven't received anything.
Okay.
Okay. That's okay. That's fine. So if anything does come through, please, of course, forward it on to me. And then as I had just discussed, sorry, there's a little feedback here. If you have your mic, can everyone mute their microphones if they're not planning on speaking? There's a little feedback. I'm not sure where it's coming from. Okay, and then as I mentioned, we'll talk about zoning permit requirements, and then we'll discuss our virtual meeting presentation. I'll walk you through it. So first of all, talked about that already. New zoning permit requirements. As we discussed at our meeting 3 weeks ago, there's a concern that ZO has about projects being built and not according to the plans that were approved. And in order to prevent that, we've revised some language and introduced new language. So first of all, the town does have already in place a mechanism by which can be enforced to prevent some of this from happening. But that mechanism doesn't have a lot of teeth. It's not very robust, and there's really not the tools necessary to have it work functionally. And that mechanism is the existing section 8.2.3, which is the certificate of zoning compliance, which basically says that you can't build anything and use it until you have a certificate of zoning compliance. All right. However, that's kind of where it left things, and it left there was a plan requirement, but it wasn't a strict requirement, and so it's pretty general language, and I just don't know that this was strictly enforced. And so what we've done is we've really built around that to put the tools in place to ensure that this certificate of zoning compliance is utilized and the ZO has the tools necessary to enforce it. So that starts with what is now section 15.1.2, which is a staking requirement, requiring that a foundation, a building, a structure, whatever it may be, its foundation, its footprint is staked out. So we have all the provisions in place for that. In addition to that, we require what we're calling a certified site plan. That's language that Old Lyme had used. And that is item B. And what item B, and I'll read it very quickly. It says that the zoning enforcement officer may require a certified copy of the site plan. So the project has been approved. There's some form of a site plan of various degrees or standards. What this is saying is that the ZEO might request that the site plan be certified by someone, basically certifying that things were built as the site plan, as they were presented on the site plan. And that would show where things actually are. And this is not quite an as-built, because it's not a new plan. It's really the existing site plan. You're just certifying that the dimensions are correct. So it's not quite to the same standard as an as-built. And so that's an additional tool. So you have staking, a certified site plan, and then you have your certificate of zoning compliance, and we added on to that. So everything in yellow is what we've either revised the language or added. So prior to item B in the right column at the top of the page, prior to issuance of the certificate of zoning compliance, the owner shall furnish the zoning enforcement officer with 2 copies of an as-built site plan, prepared by an appropriate licensed professional. I think that's language we agreed upon at our last meeting, that shows location of improvements as built. And it has to be done to A2 survey accuracy. If that site plan substantially departs from the approved site plan, the zoning enforcement officer may request certain remedies if it's something that can be moved, relocated, taken apart, and rebuilt without, if it's feasible to do that. If it's not feasible, and assuming it's not feasible, or assuming that the project is still in compliance with zoning and not non-conforming, then the ZEO can require that an as-built site plan be filed with the town clerk. Now, the point of this is that the plan that was filed, the site plan that was originally filed with the town clerk and is on record, accurately shows what is on the ground and not what was supposed to have been built. That's the point of that added provision. And then Next, we added that no certificate of zoning compliance shall be issued if it's determined that there's a violation of these regulations, of the subdivision regulations, or the inland water, wetlands watercourses regulation, or any other permit. Okay. And then finally, we added a section regarding compliance and revocation of a permit. Item A states that all work performed pursuant to the zoning permit shall comply with what was submitted. And then item B states that if the zoning and enforcement officer discovers that work has been done in violation of the permit, the zoning enforcement officer can revoke the permit, and in which case they can inform the building official, who can also revoke the building permit until things are corrected. And of course, whoever the subject is has the right to appeal to ZBA as permitted by Connecticut general statutes. So that's it. Are there any questions or comments about these additions?
This is Ben. I'm assuming Candy is 100% behind all this new wordage.
So I sent these to her a couple days ago. She's reviewing them, and she wanted to share it with the building department so that they could take a look at it. I had not yet heard back from her, but I'm hopeful that it works for both the building department and for her. And if there's anything we need to change so that it works better for them, then we'll do so.
No, it sounds to me like it has very good teeth, and just what Chuck was suggesting with staking and as-built accuracy.
Yeah, I think it's very good too. This is Ryan, and I think if Candy and the building inspectors are good with the language, then I think we proceed with it.
Mr. Chairman, Chuck here. I do think this is exactly what we discussed, and this is what exists already in a lot of larger jurisdictions, and it works very, very well. It doesn't preclude issues, but it precludes, I'd say, 97 or 98% of the issues. So it's going to be it's going to bring about a lot more compliance with the site plan. It does create a little bit of work for us because it does have teeth. Instead of asking for blessing after they do something, people will be coming back with site plan revisions. But I'd much rather bless something before it's done than after it's done. So I think this is exactly what we talked about.
Good.
Okay, very good. And I'll I'll follow up with you folks once we've heard from Candy in the building department to just confirm that it works for them as well.
Great, thank you.
Okay, next, got a presentation inside of a presentation here. So let me exit this one, and hopefully you can still see my screen. And can you see the new presentation now? I just switched over.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see it. Public meeting presentation.
Virtual public meeting, 7/26/23. Good, good.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'll walk you through this. It has, I don't know, 20, 25 slides. It's intended to be maybe a 40-minute or so presentation. I haven't timed it yet, but in that ballpark, and which would allow for the rest of the meeting to be Q&A. So here's our agenda outline. We'll walk them through the meeting format, lay down some of the ground rules, talk about the purpose of the zoning update. We'll review the process that we've gone through to date. Talk about the phase one revisions, what's in store for phase two, and then go to Q&A. The virtual meeting format will be using Zoom webinar. I'll have a technical person from my staff managing the technical side of it and basically unmuting people so they can speak. And for your benefit, just to know how this is going to work, people will be encouraged to raise their hand to ask a question when we get to that point of the meeting. And then we'll work our way down the line and unmute people so they can make comment, ask question. They can also, we'll instruct them, they can also enter questions, comments into the chat. And then the Q&A is for technical purposes. If someone can't get their mic working, whatever it is, they can talk to our technical person. We, in addition to some of these ground rules, when I get, yeah, go ahead.
We have a comment that your screen hasn't changed. All we're seeing is the front. Are you walking through the slides?
Yeah, I am. Screen. How about now?
I just have
still not moving.
Just
Okay,
your cover sheet.
Let me try to reshare. I'm
Thank you,
not sure
thank
what
you,
the
Rick,
issue
for
is.
pointing that out.
Yeah, I could have gone through this whole thing with you folks wondering what I was talking about.
Bless Rick Newton for keeping us honest.
Try this. How's that?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Virtual meeting format. I don't know what slide number that is, but yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's what I was worried about when I first switched over, that didn't work properly. Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
So this is what I was talking about. At the bottom of the screen, we'll walk people through the Zoom functions, and there they are at the bottom of the screen, the chat, the raise hand, the Q&A. So those are kind of the technical aspects of how the meeting works. Once we get to Q&A, I don't have it written on the slide right now, but it's something I'll talk people through. I'll just lay down some basic ground rules. In fact, I think I do have a couple of bullet points about staying on topic, that we're here to talk about the zoning update as across the community and the zoning as a whole, and we're not here to talk about specific applications. And well, here it is right here. I've got it in this 4th or 5th bullet. And I'll remind people of that when we get to Q&A as well.
Good.
The purpose of the update. So we'll walk them through the purpose. And here it is right here. We'll point out all the deficiencies that currently exist. And it's actually a bigger list. We kind of shrunk it to get it onto one slide. Is there anything else you would like to say about the purpose of this update? Maybe I'm missing a really important key point here.
I think if it doesn't say, without going through all these items quickly, I think if it doesn't say so that it's more easily understood by lay people that don't normally deal with this subject, zoning regulations are not written for the layperson.
Right.
It's more user friendly now.
Yeah. That's a good way of saying it.
Yeah.
Okay. We do try to drive that point home on throughout this presentation, but if I need to say it outright right here as well, I'll add that language.
It'll be a good lead in, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed.
Okay. Good. Purpose. And then you folks have seen this slide before. I want to very quickly talk about the elements of zoning, and it helps us understand where this work fits in. So you have, and you all know this, but you have your standards, and those are the line by line regulations. Those are the rules on what you can do, what you can't do. Where those are applied, those are the districts, how they are conveyed, and those are the regulations as a whole. Those are documents, and that's where a good part of our work in phase 1 has been. And then finally, how those standards are administered and enforced, and the regulations provide some guidance on that. And then the rest of it is, it's Clifton and Candace and everyone else putting this to work. And so that's something we're thinking about and working towards as well. And that zoning permit, those updates to the zoning permit regulation we just discussed are a perfect example. All right. our perspective on zoning regulations. So here we touch upon your points, Chuck. Regulations should, and there's the list, and so I'll walk them through that list, right? That look about right?
List.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I do. I think they look good.
Did you want to mention state statutes in there? Or was that mentioned later on?
Yeah, I could be consistent with statute. Yeah,
Because we are bringing
Compliant
those up
with-
to date. Yeah.
compliant with, yeah, up to date and compliant with statute. Yep. Okay. Yeah, let me just make a note here. All right. Good. The update process being led by the planning department, with the Planning and Zoning Commission being our steering committee for the project. We've met virtually now for a year. And the meetings have been open to the public and recordings available and posted on town's website. So it's been a transparent process. And we've worked consistently at it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we're taking a phased approach to the update. And here's where I'm going to help them understand where we're currently at in the process, being towards the end of phase one and the work that remains. And so there it is. We're in the process of trying to get these wrapped up and adopted for phase one.
Is repair the right word on that previous slide?
Yeah, it's the jargon that we use.
Maybe say update and reformat instead of repair.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that. We could do that.
Repair, you know, it just has a connotation that
Yeah, it does. It does. Some of the popular language being used right now, which I don't like at all, is in terms of what we call the line by line review, is called diagnosis. And I can't stand it. And some of the trendier firms love to use it, throw it around.
Well, ours might have
I
been dead
just
on arrival.
Oh my God, I
Of
can't
its
stand it. And I'm seeing it
disease.
more and more. It's supposed to be this clever, like we're going to
Right.
diagnose the patient, you know?
Right,
something's
right.
got a disease, you know?
Yeah. So I don't want to
I've-
be like that. So thank you for,
Good.
that's not the right. So thank you for pointing that out. Okay. All right.
I always thought move the needle was a improper way of talking about trying to get something done.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, continue. Sorry.
Yeah. The needle. All right. So there's where we're at in phase one. I'm going to very quick. And these are things I'm not going to dwell upon these slides. I'm going to hit these real quick just to give them an idea of what the kind of work that we've done. We've reviewed all the relevant plans and documents to make sure any amendments that we're making in the zoning regulations are consistent with what's recommended by various plans and consistent with other regulations. So that's how we started. We conducted a line by line review of the regulations, walked through that review with both the zone. So is it okay for me to say zoning commissions, or should I always say planning and zoning commission, even though you're in your zoning function?
You could always say planning P and Z. People just refer to it as that.
Yeah, I'll just go with this. I don't want to be inconsistent.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect.
All right. We updated the use summary table, and really I'll talk about how we've shifted to a format that organizes all permitted uses in a table alone, corrected multiple errors. We developed a new format for the regs, walked through some options with this commission, and organize them into a new nomenclature system, a highly rational system, and developed some supplemental graphics, which I've got a slide for that. We then migrated the regulations into that new format and corrected items based upon our line-by-line review, and updated the regulations to make them compliant with recent statutory changes. And just a couple of examples right there. And the regulations are now reorganized. The existing organization on the left, 348 pages, 9 articles. We were able to reduce it to 7 articles and 199 pages, and really without getting rid of any major regulation. We brought into a new format, which is very user-friendly in print format and on-screen and digital format. It's easy to navigate with section headings, reference tab at the bottom, justified text, large colored section headers, and a pretty friendly on the eyes font and size of font.
You know, Francisco, you might want to mention, when we originally hired you, you talked about all the places where you'd done this, and it was very impressive, and how successful it was after it was adopted. So you might just want to say that, you know, this format wasn't invented just for the town. It's a tested format, and it's being used successfully in a lot of jurisdictions.
I'm happy to do so. I will make that exact point.
And do we mention, I can't refresh my memory, we did decide to include hyperlinks, correct?
Yes, I'll make note of that too. Yeah, there are hyperlinks. So every single section reference where we cross-reference another section, you can click on it and it'll bring you right to that page.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll make note of that as well.
Great. Blow your own trumpet here, Francisco. Blow your own horn.
Yeah, thank you. You folks are a great marketing team. Thank you.
Well, you can hire us to help you next time.
All right, good. New illustrations, we introduced new illustrations, updated many illustrations. They're consistent in format and look, and they're all very legible and intuitive, and they're placed right next to the applicable regulations. To assist in transitioning to the new format, the new updated regs, and cross-referencing it or comparing it to the existing regs, we've provided a record of amendments, and that's comprised of section number cross-reference. So you compare the prior section that regulations were located in to the new section, you know, where to find those regulations. It includes, it notes what sections have been outright eliminated. It notes any regulatory amendments and also new and revised definitions. So here I'm going to, you know, it's not my intention necessarily to spend a lot of time on these, but I do, for the sake of transparency, I want to walk the public through the major changes that were made. So we did get rid of a few sections. They just weren't relevant anymore, no longer applicable. They weren't in use. They were, in some cases, just it wasn't clear that they were in compliance with statute. And so we eliminated those. And these are items that weren't really being effectively used by the town anyway. And so there they are, and this is it, just one slide. And then we did make some minor, what I'd consider minor amendments to the regulations. Most of our work in this phase one is, and you folks all know this, but for the sake of knowing what my script will be, most of our work in phase one really consisted of migrating the regulations into a new, more user-friendly format. But we did make some updates and amendments along the way that really needed to be made, and were very obvious to us what the solution was. And
rabbits.
That includes, yep, go ahead.
No, rabbits. We got rabbits.
Yeah, Yes,
Instead-
yes.
Instead of the
So-
word notable, could you just say text amendments?
I could,
Because
yeah,
notable sounds like, we've gone off in phase one into phase two.
okay, okay.
I would prefer just text amendments if nobody else
I-
objects to that.
I
That's a good
understand
idea. That
I
cleans, yeah, you're
understand the
right.
sensitivity regarding
Yeah.
that. So I'm going to change that one now so I don't forget it, and then I'll take care of the rest later.
Good point,
Okay.
Chuck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm not going to go through all these with you, but the idea is I'd take about maybe 2 minutes per slide to really quick touch upon each one of these points. And we've got, I don't know, about 5 slides to this effect.
Okay.
In our purpose, in some cases, statutory requirement, like 5.3.3 right here. So we have the change that was made and why we did it.
Mhm.
A few more. And on the far left, it gives you an idea of what category we're in, principal uses, what section of the regs, accessory uses, and down to HI 60, performance standards, site design, modification to parking, electric vehicle charging, off-street loading, zoning permits, which we just discussed, bond requirements. That's it. I'll talk about our review process, that the draft has been circulated to ZBA Architectural Design Review Board, that we'll likely share it with Climate Change Task Force, Stormwater Committee.
Yep.
We did share it with DEEP. We received minor comments. We will be distributing it to the COG prior to any public hearing for adoption as required. And we'll be filing whatever we intend to bring to public hearing adoption will be filed with town clerk at least 30 days prior to the public hearing. While we're on this subject, we don't currently have a draft of the regulations online available to the public. I expect that would be, and if it's not prior to our meeting next week, I expect that would be a question. When is it available for us to look at? When can we see it? It may be in our benefit to get this online on the town's website before that public meeting so that we could say at the public meeting, it's online right now.
I think that after next week's meeting, put it on the website.
You think after our
I
virtual
don't know.
public meeting?
Is that, you're saying put it on before the
I
public?
I would say put it up now if it's
Okay.
available.
Yeah, that's what I'm driving at.
I would
agree. Put it up earlier.
that we put it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
Okay, so Clifton, I'll need to coordinate with you on that. I'll get you the most recent draft that includes the zoning permit changes. And we'll
Please send it to
need to
myself
get
and Gail, and we'll get it up.
good, excellent. Okay, good.
Could you send us all a link so that we have access to the latest draft?
I will do exactly that.
Great, thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. And then I'll talk about our next steps. We have an in-person workshop on the 17th, so we'll advertise that. And then we're holding September 19th as a potential date for a public hearing for adoption.
Right.
Right. I think we'll talk about that as being a potential date, just in case people freak out over the draft and think we're moving too fast, and we'll just kind of ease into it a little by letting them know it's our intention, potential still.
Yeah, let's see how the 17th goes, but
Yeah.
not that much radical change happening really in the
Right.
bottom line.
Right. Okay.
Or maybe I'm so imbued by it for a whole year that I'm used to all of it. But it doesn't strike me as being too cataclysmic a change.
And it's not. It really isn't.
Right.
It really
The
isn't.
other thing, the other thing is too, to move quickly to get into phase two, where we really will sink our teeth into, the heavier issues associated with all of this.
Right. So that's looking ahead to phase two. And so what I'm saying right now is we'll launch it in September. And we could certainly start gearing up in anticipation of that over the next month or so. But we'll talk about, a real kind of formal launch of phase two in September and start to lay out. We've got to do some community engagement around that, start to lay out a schedule for that. And then I'll walk through the topics that we'll cover. We're gonna open it back up. We'll take a look at allowed uses. Are we allowing the right uses in the right districts, and are the permit requirements, are they the right permit requirements, and everything else on this list. And then I'll reassure them that we'll have an online survey. We'll do focus group workshops, and there'll be opportunities for the public to be engaged in these discussions.
Where would short-term rentals fall into? The first one, allowed uses and permit requirements?
That's what I was just going to bring up.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So, Francisco and I guess Ben and everyone, I've been recently talking to Danielle about this, and with the phase two, I feel like short-term rentals could possibly just dominate the entirety of phase two with how hot button of a topic it is.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to detract. So maybe it'd be worth considering not discussing it as part of phase two and keeping it as a siloed thing, separate of the rewrite. I don't want to make a decision on that now, but I know that if we bring it up, it's going to take up 5-6 meetings.
It could. You're right. You're right, Clifton.
Yeah, he's correct on that.
But when would we tackle it, I guess, would be the question.
Well, I think, I think we can work towards what we think is a reasonable solution and a reasonable regulation, and maybe just dedicate one focus group workshop to that, and include it in some of the survey, some questions about it to better test the public on their thoughts and concerns. And then we don't need to include it when we try to bring that next big update to a public hearing for adoption. We can put it on the side and carve out some room for it in the regs and just put it on a different page and just push the rest. If that's going to be what holds, if that's going to be what holds everything up, and there's going to be some other items likely that will be similar to this.
Right.
That
parking.
we have to pick our battles, and which isn't to say we can't work on it and develop what we think is the appropriate regulation and text, but we can put it off to the side, carve out some room for it in the document so we know exactly where we want to put it, where it fits in, get all the rest of it passed, and, have a cooling off period, and then come back to it and do some little workshops around that.
I like that idea.
I think that makes sense. Yeah, I like that.
As long as the public understands we're dedicating time, a better time and a more thoughtful time and place towards a resolution, not that we're just kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
Meaning we are kicking a can down the road, but we do plan on stopping and picking up the can and examining it.
You're not kicking it off the road.
Yeah, there we go.
Right. Okay.
Let it collect some dust first.
Well, it's got that. Yeah. Is that what we're all trying to say is don't lose focus on it, but keep it in the rearview mirror for a little while and then come back to it. Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't want to sweep it away. I just don't,
No.
I don't want to also to dominate all the other work that needs to be done.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Clifton.
Yeah, makes sense.
You on board with that, Chuck? Gary?
I am. I think that's a very good way to handle it.
Okay. Gary?
Yeah, hesitantly, yeah. Yeah, I understand it. Unfortunately, I understand it.
Do you have some better ideas?
I don't. I wish I did, but I
Yeah.
think it will overtake everything, and then it's
It could,
almost like for the
yeah.
greater good to put that one to the side a little bit, because otherwise nothing else will get done. So, yep.
So we'll have to extend your contract, Francisco, for another year, I think, for that one.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Good ideas, guys.
Okay, and then we go to questions and comments.
Great.
So that's the presentation.
And that's where your gatekeeper will be so important with the Zoom.
Yeah, oh yeah, they'll manage things, and if anyone's problem, they'll shut them down, and right. And
Okay.
yeah.
And would you like me to do an introduction to you? Or
Yes,
just you wanna,
yes, thank you,
Okay.
thank you. That would be wonderful.
I mean, it's just going to be brief that we
Yeah, but just
thank
it'd
you,
be
people.
good. Right, it would be
Okay.
very good to have you in front, talk about, you can even get into a little bit of why, even though I'll be reiterating it, a little bit of, why we're doing this and why you hired a consultant and our role, the role that we play.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
then I'll take
I'll
things
keep
from
it
there.
brief. I'll keep it very brief.
Yeah, that would be very helpful. I think it's important that the public's reminded or made aware that this is the Planning and Zoning Commission and the town's project, right? This isn't a consultant coming in and with an agenda. You're the client, and this is your project, and,
Right.
and we're bringing the expertise.
Yeah, nothing to do with the state ramming anything down.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
It's just a common paranoia.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Any questions
All
from the audience, the board?
I had just, Francisco, I think it was page 3 or 4. Could you go back to it where I think the word was like enrich the community and what zoning is for? Could you go back to that?
Yeah, I was about to switch out of that, but I'll pull it right back up. The purpose of the update right here.
No, it almost was a brief of what zoning does, how it,
Right here.
yeah, it was fun. I just took one of those courses and they mentioned, I think I saw the word protect the community. I don't know if that's something in here or
Support a community.
I think we're trying in the first bullet point here. I think we're really trying to capture a lot of that.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't use the word neighborhood.
I mean, if you really wanted to get into it, the state enabling legislation for zoning has a, kind of a long list of what zoning should be used for or can be used for. And we could get into all of that, but I just don't want to bore people with all that. I just want to give them an idea of
All right.
how we think they should be best designed and used.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where just that one bullet that, for those that are interested in, the higher purpose of zoning, it is in the statute, and maybe just reference the statute, section 5 of the statutes, and that's it. Like you say, you waste the whole night on that.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
You can also throw that onto my plate too, if you want to push people and be like, oh, go talk to the town office and deal with that.
Okay.
That is the
So,
short-term rentals.
right. So,
Yeah, exactly. I'll do office hours for short-term rentals.
right. Okay. So yeah, I'll just remind people that basically the state authorizes municipalities to regulate land use in this way, and it's enabled by statute. And yeah, okay, that we're not just making up these rules, and the state really authorizes and requires us to regulate land use in this way. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's very good. Any other
Yep.
comments?
I'm good.
Great.
All right.
All good.
So to
Do I
All
hear-
good.
close out
what-
close
any
out
other,
this particular, yeah, let me close out this particular meeting by switching back to my other presentation. Yeah, we're kind of a Russian dolls here. And so I want to take a look. I wanted to go back to this because of our meeting schedule.
Oh, good, thank you.
We've got the in-person meeting on the 17th, but our normal meeting schedule has us meeting on the 23rd. And I think it may be beneficial for us to meet on the 23rd to debrief, to go through
Okay.
what we heard at both the in-person and the virtual meeting, and kind of, just come to consensus as to that we're good to move forward, or maybe we need to address some concerns that were brought up. And so I don't, and we could talk a little bit about phase 2 and start to lay out a schedule for that on the 23rd. If that date works, that is our regular schedule, but I just want to make sure it works for everyone, given, it's at the tail end of summer.
I mean, I'll be out a
Sure.
different time zone, but I'll make it work.
Very important. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think
Okay.
the
I think it would
I
work.
think the debrief is a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get the
Agreed.
pulse of, it will circulate in the public, and Clifton's phone will be ringing off the hook that week. So yeah, it'll be good to hear what he has to say, how it's been received.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, I'll debrief the angry emails that come in over the weekend.
The smoking emails.
Yeah.
All right. So I hear, is that it, Francisco? We all done?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yes, thank you.
May I have a motion to close the hearing?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
Seconded.
Doug, and a second by Ryan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Francisco, this has been great, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
excellent job, Francisco.
everyone.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Very
thank you. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.